That bullpen historically bad, but how bad is it? Forget this year. If they make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs. What's moving forward? What kind of shape is this organization in? Kevin Cooney, Philly Voice, has a great piece up right now, PhillyVoice.com, at Kevin Cooney on Twitter. You can get the full piece. And, man, I don't even know where you start with this team, man. Holy mackerel. Kevin, you've been around this team a long, long time. Can you put into some perspective just how bad of a bullpen we're looking at here?
It's historic. I mean, it's historic not just for the Phillies, but for all of Major League Baseball. I mean, you know, you're talking about nightly implosions. I mean, Mike, this is something you would expect out of an expansion team who gets, you know, bottom of the barrel guys, runs them out there, and night after night finds ways to lose. I mean, this team has gotten sufficient offense. You know, it's streaky, but it's sufficient offense. Their starting pitching has actually been kind of, in a lot of ways, a pleasant surprise. You knew you would get with Nola and Wheeler. They've gotten good performances out of Eflin and Arrieta at times this year. Yeah, the fifth starter's been a mess, but the bullpen, it's everything. And the bullpen, and now the lack of depth in the organization has been what's been showing through with everything going on.
Matt Klentak obviously has been here 5 off seasons. He's got a $200+ million payroll. Is there any signature move other than signing Harper? And he got Wheeler here, I guess. I don't know how much credit we even give him for Harper, but has Matt Klentak done anything that would suggest the ownership group is still holding on to him as, hey, he can get this done?
Well, you know, the better question is, you're right. I mean, the Harper money is there. You know, everything that he's done that's been productive has been with money. You know, when you look at Harper, when you look at Wheeler, Arrieta was also in that mix too. You would say that Harper and Arrieta were probably products of John Middleton pushing the envelope a little quicker than maybe these guys were. You know, but look at it. Yeah, Mike, I put it this way. Name me one trade that Matt Klentak has won. One of them. And you can't. You can't even say the Real Muto trade right now because of what Sixto Sanchez is going, it looks like, and the fact that you haven't signed Real Muto beyond this year.
How about the Jay Bruce? That might be the only thing that stands out to me.
But that's just paying cash, basically. I mean, that, you know, look, it's when it comes to talent for talent, okay, Matt Klentak has not been able to match it up. You know, think about the one trade. All right, you would say, well, J.P. Crawford's not laying the world up in Seattle, okay, and Gene Segura is a responsible player, but J.P. Crawford has $545,000 on your payroll. Gene Segura is $15 million, and part of the reason you had to get Gene Segura was because you were trying to dump Carlos Santana, which was another awful contract that they signed, because they then moved him in the first. They put Hoskins in left. It had no game plan whatsoever. You can look at the contracts that they signed and how much it's come back to haunt them. For example, everybody loves Andrew McCutchen. Good guy to have in your clubhouse, is a decent player still. Who was offering him 3 years and $50 million other than the Phillies? Nobody at that point. This is where the leadership of this organization, and it's not just Matt Klentak, Ian McPhail has to play a big part in this too, because he's supposed to be the grown-up in the room, and I don't know what he does at this point that helps out the baseball side of things.
Yeah, just to clarify, I definitely wasn't supporting Matt Klentak. I was just thinking about the one move that maybe stood out to me. And the fact that it's Jay Bruce should tell you everything you need to know. What me and Gil, we were looking at this bullpen before you hopped on. We talked about Workman, Hembry, Phelps, the acquisitions. And when you look at their ERA in other places, they were very serviceable. Yet when they come here, their ERA jumps from around 3.5 to 11 or 8. Now, is that a philosophy problem with Brian Price, or like how does that happen?
That's a great question. I don't think anybody can answer it. Part of it could be. Remember seeing the Natural where you had the circus guy who came into the clubhouse to talk, like the hypnotist, losing is a disease. losing is contagious like bubonic plague. It's almost like this is what has happened with this bullpen. Do I think Brian Price has done a great job with their bullpen? Absolutely not. Am I going to fire Brian Price? No, because Brian Price is still probably an upgrade given what they have with Chris Young. The problem with the Phillies was they don't have the payroll flexibility that actually allowed them to get quality arms, okay? Everybody they got was a salary dump, okay? Or the other portion of this is, who exactly are you developing? In bullpens, some of the best bullpens are the ones that you develop yourself. And there's nobody here, and that includes Hector Neris, that you can turn the ball over to late in the game and feel confident that you're going to be walking out the door with a win.
Kevin, you're right. I mean, you look up and down. Yeah, Bohm looks like a nice player, and he might turn into be a superstar. Who knows? I mean, he's had a nice start.
And Mike, I'll warn you. We also saw Reese Hoskins have 2 good months.
Yep.
We also saw Maikel Franco have 2 good months. So
absolutely,
pump the brakes a little bit on Alec Bohm. He may also be out of position. He probably is a first baseman more than a third baseman.
Right. And Bohm, if he develops and stays and plays pretty well, great. Howard has been very mediocre, to say the least. Other than that, and of course you have Harper as an attraction, but I don't know what else this organization has to get excited about.
That you're guaranteed long term. If you get Real Muto back, you're excited about that. I mean, but yeah, you're right. Even and one guy that's going to escape criticism because of the bullpen situation. How many nights have we seen Aaron Nola in a big spot come up small like he did last night? You needed Aaron Nola to go 7-8 deep last night, and he barely gets you into the 5th. I mean, at 90 pitches. You need your top-end guy to be a little better than what he was last night and what he's been in other key spots over the last couple of years. This isn't just a this year thing. This is September's last year, September's the year before, where Aaron Nola really fizzled down the stretch.
How much blame should go on John Middleton? I look at this JT Realmuto situation, and I think to myself, all right, like, Matt Klentak's the GM, and there's no way that if John Middleton wanted JT Realmuto, but Matt Klentak didn't, that he would go with Matt Klentak's philosophy of that. So something's telling me that John Middleton is believing whatever Matt Klentak sees in this whole debacle. And obviously it's the luxury tax issue and all this money. But, I mean, John Middleton, he's clearly not doing enough either.
Let me flip the question around, okay? When you have Matt Klentak in the first press conference after everybody gets back and the Real Muto situation is brought up and the general manager's going, the landscape's totally different. Like, absolutely, it's not the same as it was back in March when we wanted to get Real Muto back here and everything. The payrolls are down and all that. Of course, this is before Betts signed a real rich contract with the Dodgers. If you're the owner and your GM is saying that, okay, one, you're thinking you're probably getting a bargain, so you're going to naturally kind of step back and maybe let the GM handle it as long as he can. And two, if you're the owner, you can't cut the GM's knees out from under him at that exact spot at the beginning of what was the shortened season. I think that John Middleton's going to try like hell to get JT Realmuto back. I cannot believe that the guy who got on an airplane to go to Oklahoma to see JT Realmuto's opinion about Gabe Kapler last year is going to let him walk out the door for nothing. I can't believe that, because he knows what's at stake.
Right.
He knows that if he lets Realmuto walk out the door and the Mets sign him or the Yankees sign him or the Astros sign him, what that's going to do to the relationship with the right fielder. And Bryce Harper will be an irate person if JT Realmuto is not back here next year.
Yeah, and especially for what you gave up to get him, the way that's starting to look out now, too. As you mentioned, you can't even really say that you won that deal. I mean, 2 years ago, it was like, all right, you got a guy, or last year, I guess, and now all of a sudden that guy's up, and that guy looks real good. So, I mean, it's one of those things.
Up, and Mike, they also gave away a starting major league level catcher, too.
Yeah.
In Alfaro. He wasn't a perfect model. He's not Realmuto, but he was still a major league level caliber catcher. If Real Muto walks out the door, he's not there.
Kevin, are you at the point now that regardless of whether the Phillies make the playoffs or not, that Klentak is a goner?
And I'll take this a step further. In my mind, if it was my organization, I would clean out the general manager and the president.
Well, yeah, you mentioned McPhail. I can't even ask a question at him. I don't even know what he does. I mean, he's been here, and at that point, it was almost like they were trying to recreate Gillick.
I think that's a point. But and I use this description in the column. When Pat Gillick came in and filled in for after David Montgomery got sick, okay, and there was that bridge piece until McPhail came in. Remember, Gillick was involved with Ruben Amaro on trying to. On laying the groundwork on some of these trades that ended up being, the Utley trade, the Hamels trade. And did they work out maybe the way it was supposed to? Probably not. But they were trades that were based in logical sense. And you saw Gillick was involved on the baseball end. There is nothing right now that tells you that Andy McPhail is the adult in the room here watching out over the baseball organization. It seems like, and every time he does talk, Mike, every time, it seems like he distances the organization from its fan base just a little bit more.
Yeah. And
for a fan base, this year it doesn't hurt them because there's obviously no tickets. But they're going to need to sell season tickets next year if everybody's allowed back in. How do you sell this? I brought up the example of why Ed Wade got fired in 2005. They won 88 games. They were one game shy of making the wild card back when making the wild card was a big deal because there was only 4 teams per league that made it. Okay, and there was only that single wild card. They were one game away. They had Rollins, Utley, and Howard in their system, and they had Cole Hamels on the way for 2006. And they couldn't keep Ed Wade because you couldn't sell this product to the organization moving forward, or sell this organization to the fans moving forward. I think we've reached that same exact spot with this group in McPhail and Klentak.
How much of an impact does COVID-19 have in play with something like Matt Klentak's contract and the years left on it?
That would be interesting because this is not exactly the type of economy where you're just going to throw away paying a guy 2 years, to do nothing. It could be. The idea that you only played 60 games. In fairness, that could be an argument that Middleton uses if he decides not to make a change. Well, I want to give him a full season. The problem is, in a full season, does that bullpen get any substantially better? Would that starting pitching get revealed more in a 140 or 150 game season than it was in a 60 game season? Probably. The holes are there, and the farm system has not changed. Yes, they brought Moniak up, and I get that. But Mickey Moniak was only brought up because pretty much everybody else had gotten injured and dropped.
Yeah.
So
I almost feel like it was, hey, just to say he made it. I mean, literally, he looked so out of place. He looked scared to death last night.
I mean, this is the problem. What has your minor league system developed? And it's just not there. And that's after 5 years. That's what this organization has to look at, and that is a bad path for them to be on. So that's why I think, look, there's going to be, you hate saying it, there's going to be changes within the organization anyway, because obviously with the income not coming in, there's no guarantee that beyond their budget they're going to be able to keep everybody on staff that they always had. But at the same time, I think the situation on the ground almost necessitates that you have to make a change going forward.
Kevin Cooney, Philly Voice. Check out the full article. The Phillies are a complete mess right now. That bullpen has turned into an absolute nightmare every single night. And he, like August, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Thank you, Kevin. Enjoy the weekend, man.
No problem. Thanks, Mike.